Okay, Bible lady here. It's way early in the morning, and uh, I was watching some true crime, and I'm highly offended. And actually, it's for a really bad person. Okay, I was watching this true crime, and this guy is convicted of mm, accused of cannibalizing and killing people. Okay, this is 1992, and the 90s are fucking were wild. Okay, and I get it, but these cops make me so mad. The cops in this make me so mad. So I'm gonna rewind it. I'm only 14 minutes into it and I'm already mad. So we're just gonna we're just gonna start it over so you can see it. And then maybe you can be like, oh yeah, that's illegal as fuck. Cause that's illegal as fuck. So anyway, without further ado, yeah, we're at doing. I don't know what a doing is, but we're fucking doing it. Okay, so
The man you see on your screen is Haddon Clark, a deeply disturbed predator who became the prime suspect in the murder of 23-year-old Laura Houtling.
Is that how you ate long? Cut her up in little pieces. Goes your blood, and tasted the blood, and then tasted the good stuff, and you had some more blood. And you had some
dirty cop.
As they pressed this cannibal killer for answers, the interrogation spiraled into chaos, uncovering secrets so chilling that even the most seasoned cops lost their control.
those two facts.
Illegal as fuck. This illegal. This is so infuriating. These cops are terrible. This guy is
On
terrible.
Monday
But
morning, October 19th, 1992, the day started uneventfully at Holman
these
Communications,
cops.
a public relations firm in Washington, D.C. That was until Laura Houtling failed to arrive at work by 9 a.m. This was entirely out of character. By 11 o'clock, her boss, Diana Holman, began to worry. Concerned, she called her daughter Hillary, who was a close friend of Laura, to ask if she had any idea where Laura might be. But Hillary was just as clueless. Acting on her concern, Hillary drove to Laura's home, a house she shared with her mother, Penny Houtling. Laura's car was parked in the driveway, but nobody answered the door when Hillary knocked. Hillary knew that Penny had left town for a week-long conference on Saturday, October 17th, leaving Laura alone at home. Unsure of what else to do, Hillary reached out to the next best person, Laura's brother, Warren Houtling. She left a message on his answering machine.
He is
After
really
Warren returned
cute.
home from work, he received the
The
message.
handsome man.
When he did, a sense of anxiety began to set in.
Warren Houtling was Laura's brother, and they were incredibly close.
He went by the house. Laura's car was there, and he went in the house. Everything looked fine, but nothing disturbed. Apparently, the house was secure.
Warren searched the house thoroughly, but found nothing else out of place. By 6 p.m., anxiety had set in. Warren called all of Laura's friends and relatives, but none had heard from her that day. The last time he had seen his sister was on the afternoon of Sunday, October 18th, and she seemed in good spirits. Worried that something had happened to Laura outside, Warren scoured the area for hours but found nothing. Finally, after midnight, he called the Bethesda police. Officer David Shupp responded to the call and came to the house to inspect the premises. While he found nothing suspicious,
That guy looked really sad. That cop guy in that picture, he looks sad.
suspicious. He reassured Warren that the vast majority of missing persons turn up safe within a short time. But Laura's case would be tragically different. The next morning, Warren called Penny at her conference to share the news. She immediately decided to fly home, though she wasn't particularly alarmed.
Those glasses.
Penny didn't want to believe that anything had happened to her daughter and thought it would not be unusual for her to just hook up with some rich guy and take off to the island somewhere. I'm sure she's fine. You know, she's run off with some friends. She's just being a little spoiled brat and not telling us.
Tension was mounting among Laura's friends and family. What made the situation even more puzzling was that there was no apparent reason for Laura to have left on her own. The only explanation that made sense was that
Oh,
something
there's a
sinister
cute
had
little
happened to
fat
her.
face.
Nobody had heard from Laura, and this was just totally out of character for her. We checked her bank account, credit cards, checking account. There was nothing there where she had withdrawn money that she would have needed to survive somewhere.
By Wednesday, October 21st,
Oh.
the police conducted a search of the nearby woods, but they found no traces of Laura. In an effort to spread the word even further, they contacted a local television station, hoping that broadcasting her disappearance would prompt someone to come forward with crucial information.
If you know anything about the disappearance of Laura Bettis Hodling, please call Montgomery County Police. She is 6 feet tall, 145 pounds, with brown eyes and shoulder-length blonde hair.
It was at this point that the detectives uncovered their first clue. While speaking with neighbors, one woman came forward with valuable information.
All right, let's.
She revealed that she had seen Laura on the morning of October 19th, around the time she would typically leave for work.
Laura came out of the house. And we're waving to her and she ignores us. You know, I thought that was odd. Then we said, look, can you describe her for us? I said, yeah, she had on slacks and a long jacket.
While Laura's behavior seemed unusual, the investigators were about to receive an even bigger shock. Penny
That's it.
revealed that Laura had never dressed the way the neighbor described. Nevertheless, the detectives passed on this new detail to the news, hoping it might spark someone's memory. Little did they know, a surprising lead was about to surface,
Oh.
one that no one could have anticipated.
They got a call from some psychic in Virginia, and I don't know anything about this case. I don't know what's going on, but I have this feeling you need to search this wooded area between two churches. It just so happened there were two churches with wooded area very close to where Laura was living.
Following a tip from a psychic, which might have seemed far-fetched in any other criminal investigation, the detectives, desperate to find any clue about Laura's whereabouts, decided to follow it. What happened next, however, would take them by surprise, a startling discovery that no one saw coming, just 4 days after Laura's disappearance.
I came up here to check with the police officers that were doing the search in these woods. When I got here, asked them how they were doing. They told me that they found some women's shoes, some women's clothing, and that he found also a pillowcase. They
Why
believe
is
that it
the
had been here a long
thing
time because they had stains on
Oh,
them.
there you go.
Probably from leaves. You've found things in the woods and they have these stains on them. And as the leaves deteriorate, I said, really? Let me see the pillowcase. As soon as he showed it to me, I knew it was not stained by leaves. That staining was blood.
The pattern on the pillowcases was identical to the one found on Laura's bed.
Uh-oh.
Additionally, the blood type discovered on the pillowcase matched Laura's. What had started as a missing persons case now took a darker turn, as police feared the worst. Laura's bedroom was now considered a crime scene. Forensic experts were called in
This
to
is
examine the
fine.
area. Meanwhile, Laura's mother pointed out that the bed was missing both the mattress pad and the bottom sheet, which seemed odd. When the forensic team tested the mattress with luminol, they made a horrifying discovery, one that would change the course of the investigation entirely.
It was covered with blood, and you could see where a hand was across the bed.
You knew that this girl's dead.
Uh-oh.
The amount of blood found on Laura's bed led detectives to believe with near certainty that she had been killed in that room, turning the case into a homicide investigation. They thoroughly examined the entire room, taking Laura's belongings for further analysis and testing. As the news of Laura's potential death spread, her friends and family were devastated. Yet detectives knew they needed to ask the difficult question: who could have killed Laura, and who had a motive to harm her?
Uh-oh.
Initially, no one seemed to have an answer. However, Warren, Laura's brother, soon dropped a strange detail that
Here
would
we
change
go.
everything.
And the first night that Laura was missing, Warren looks, and here comes his truck. His mom's gardener. He happened to be driving by, and Warren attempted to stop him, to talk to him, but instead of stopping, the gardener drove off fast. He couldn't understand why he would do that. That seemed very unusual.
When Warren later
That's
asked the gardener
crazy.
about the bizarre encounter, the man claimed he hadn't stopped because he was afraid of a carjacking. However, the detectives were not convinced by his explanation. The gardener in
Okay.
question, 40-year-old Haddon Clark, had both the means and the opportunity to commit the crime. Penny had hired Haddon early 1992, believing she was doing a good deed by helping a homeless man from a local church organization. He had proved to be a reliable worker, eventually becoming quite attached to her, almost as if she were a mother figure. Penny trusted him so much that she even gave him a key to the house. Despite her complete faith in him, Penny had always known that Haddon was a deeply troubled man.
She went into more detail about how odd he was. She would give him tasks to do in the backyard, such as digging a flower bed, and he would dig and dig and dig, didn't know when to stop.
However, the more disturbing detail was yet to come. Penny revealed that just days before Laura's disappearance, on October 12, 1992, they had a heated argument. Penny accused Haddon of stealing some tools from her backyard shed and yelled at him. This was enough for the detectives to start seeing Haddon Clark in a new light, but when they went to speak with him, their eyebrows were raised even further.
Laura is missing, and Penny is really concerned, and we need your help to try to find her. It was at that point Haddon goes, "Oh my God, I just want to die," and he went down on one knee.
Although Haddon provided an alibi for the time when Laura went missing, the Bethesda police were not convinced of his story. With growing suspicion, they obtained a warrant to search his vehicle, and the search soon uncovered some compelling clues.
Uh-oh.
On
Here
October
we go.
26, 1992,
That's
officers
Kelso's
conducted a
birthday.
search of Haddon Clark's truck. During the
This happens on Kelso's birthday, like fucking forever before he was born. That's so funny. It's also, I think, it's Hillary Clinton's birthday. Blah.
1992, officers conducted a search of Haddon Clark's truck. During the search, it contained just one word: Laura.
Right.
They seized several items, including bedding, hair samples, and personal documents, such as a checkbook of stealing some tools from her backyard shed, and yelled at him. This was enough for the detectives to start seeing Haddon Clark in a new light, but when they went to speak with him, their eyebrows were raised even further.
Laura is missing, and Penny is really concerned, and we need your help to try to find her. It was at that point Haddon goes, "Oh my God, I just want to die," and he went down on one knee.
Although Haddon provided an alibi for the time when Laura went missing, the Bethesda police were not convinced of his story. With growing suspicion, they obtained a warrant to search his vehicle, and the search soon uncovered some compelling clues. On October 26, 1992, officers conducted a search of Haddon Clark's truck. During the search, they seized several items, including bedding, hair samples, and personal documents, such as a checkbook register, receipts, and an expense log.
It would have the date and the time when he would buy $10 worth of gas, and then when he would buy $4 worth of power bars. He kept track of every dime that he spent.
Digging into Haddon's financial records, detectives discovered that he had purchased duct tape, braided ropes, and nylon cords several days before Laura's disappearance. As if this wasn't alarming enough, the next revelation would send chills down their spines. Haddon had paid for those items with a personal check, and the memo section contained just one word: Laura. Further investigation into his checkbook revealed a troubling entry. Haddon had paid to rent a storage unit in Warwick, Rhode Island, 450 miles away from the scene. The records showed that he had been at the storage unit on the morning of October 21st, just 2 days after Laura had vanished. Armed with a search warrant, detectives went to investigate the unit. What they found would expose a secret side of Haddon Clark's life, a side that revealed the depths of his deranged and disturbing mind.
He had falsies that he would place into bras. Apparently he had bras, he had dresses, he had female shoes, he had female coats, he had
Don't
wigs,
kink shame.
everything that he could wear and
I
look
have
like
a
a female.
This new development forced detectives to reconsider everything about the case. They now had to entertain the possibility that the witness who had seen Laura on the morning of October 19th might not have seen Laura at all. It could have been Haddon Clark, disguised as a woman with a blonde wig, attempting to mislead the investigation. However, the detectives still lacked solid evidence that directly connected him to Laura's disappearance and death. As they continued to meticulously build their case, a major breakthrough occurred. Forensic experts had been analyzing a hairbrush found in Laura's room and discovered 30 hairs, each belonging to Laura, except for one. This singular hair was shockingly not from any person. It was a synthetic strand commonly used in wigs. As it turned out, the discovery of a blonde wig in Haddon's storage unit was no coincidence. In fact, the wig was an exact match to the synthetic hair found on the brush. To further solidify their suspicions, forensic experts uncovered a partial bloody fingerprint on a pillowcase, matching none other than Haddon Clark's. With this new evidence, detectives finally had enough to arrest Haddon, but they still faced a major
now we're getting
roadblock.
to the part
They
that
didn't
pisses
know the
me off.
whereabouts of Laura's body, which they needed to prove in court that a murder had even occurred. So, on November 6th, 1992, they brought Haddon in for interrogation, hoping to extract a confession. Little did they know they were dealing with a psychopath who would not budge so easily.
While the detectives were outside watching and monitoring and recording this.
Ask me what you want to know and I'll tell you.
Can I see my lawyer?
Has Penny been
Okay.
on you?
Well, I see my lawyer.
They needed to stop asking him questions right after that. That's what it, like the 90s were fucking wild, man, because they needed to stop questioning him. So I don't know what happens at the end of this because I just fucking stopped it and went live because this is making me mad. That he asked for a lawyer, but they continue to ask him questions. And the 90s were wild, man.
Okay.
I want to see my lawyer.
You're going to see your lawyer.
I want to see my lawyer.
Do you want to stand up and stretch your legs for a second?
I want to see my lawyer.
Do you consider Penny your friend?
I want to see my lawyer.
Let me ask you something.
Do you like men or women? Is God talking to you?
God's talking to me.
Well, I bet he's telling you that you need to help yourself.
He told me to see my lawyer.
Do you
This
consider
is,
Penny?
it's so offensive. This is a bad guy. Let him see his lawyer. You're fucking your whole case. If this don't get overturned, I will be so surprised.
Your friend?
These are bad
Were you
cops.
sexually involved with her? Did you Penny? Did you her and she rejected you? And you got angry, so you took it out on Laura?
Haddon, help me. Talk to me about Laura. Haddon, what can you tell me about Laura? Do you think she's pretty? Did she do something to make you angry? She hurt your feelings?
Haddon, do you have a thing for pillows?
Even under intense questioning, Haddon repeatedly demanded his lawyer, but detectives ignored his requests. While it's within the legal rights of any suspect, the detectives knew they were taking a huge risk, especially since anything incriminating Haddon said couldn't be used in court. Still, they were willing to gamble with their careers, hoping for any clue that could lead them to Laura's body.
Oh, you
However,
gamble with your
Haddon made it clear
career.
that he wouldn't
These are
cooperate,
bad cops.
and now he was simply getting on their nerves.
These are bad cops. If this does not get overturned, I will be so surprised. I never saw this before. I was a kid in the 90s, but the 90s were wild, man.
Sitting in there with him and watching his behavior, I expected his head to spin around. oh my God, is he like possessed? Like, why isn't he talking? What's he thinking?
He wants his
He
lawyer.
was just creepy. He was not anyone that you'd want to be in a room with.
Well, you should have let him have his lawyer. See, this is a bad guy. And it's shit like this that makes people stick up for bad people. Because these cops are worse. It's just they're trampling all over this guy. They're not getting justice for anyone. Because really, if the Supreme Court was to look at that, all these cops would be fired.
Alone on the outside world.
That man would.
While the detectives in the interrogation room were desperately trying to break Haddon Clark, another team was digging into his past, trying to uncover more about the man they were dealing with. What they discovered about his history would soon make everything they had learned so far seem like mere child's play. Haddon Clark was the second of 4 children, and from a young age he exhibited troubling behavior. He showed no compassion for others, even for his own family. To make matters worse, he had a disturbing hobby of killing and dissecting animals.
Things were wrong with Haddon from the start. There were mental things that were not right. Haddon spent a lot of time in different specialized schools to try to deal with the other matters that caused him to be antisocial.
In 1985, Haddon was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. With no place to live, his younger brother Jeffrey Clark offered to help by inviting him to stay with him in Silver Spring, Maryland. This would mark the beginning of a very dark chapter in Haddon's life, one that would eventually bring him to the radar of the police for the first time. By May of 1986, Jeffrey had grown fed up with Haddon's unsettling behavior. The final straw came when Haddon was caught engaging in illicit activities in front of Jeffrey's children. Disgusted, Jeffrey asked Haddon to move out immediately. On May 31, 1986, as Haddon packed up to leave, Jeffrey decided to take his wife and children out for the day, giving Haddon some space to move. Little did anyone know, this brief absence would unknowingly pave the way for the destruction of another family. One of Jeffrey's neighbors, 6-year-old Michelle Dorr, who was also the friend of his daughter Elizabeth, was going through a difficult time. Her parents, Dorothy and Carl, were in the midst of a bitter and messy divorce. That weekend, Michelle was staying with her father, unaware of the tragedy that was about to unfold.
On Memorial Day weekend, in 1986, Michelle's mother, Dorothy, had made plans to travel to Virginia Beach, visit her family. I had physical custody of Michelle. I thought we would just have a nice leisurely May 31st. I would do whatever Michelle wanted that day. My time was her time.
It was a scorching hot day, and Carl Dorr did his best to make it enjoyable for Michelle. Around noon, he filled a plastic swimming pool in their backyard, where Michelle happily splashed around. Carl watched her play for a while, before heading indoors to catch a bit of television. At some point, Carl dozed off on the couch. When he woke up, it was already late in the afternoon. He quickly checked the time, realizing it was past 5:45 p.m. He went outside to call for her, but was struck by panic when she was nowhere to be seen. In desperation, Carl walked to his neighbor Jeffrey Clark's house 2 doors down, hoping Michelle might have gone to visit her friend Elizabeth. To his horror, Jeffrey informed him that they hadn't seen Michelle either.
He said, "No, she's not here." And I looked at Elizabeth, and she's not with you. And I couldn't believe what Jeff was saying. And it just didn't register at first, that she couldn't be with Elizabeth. And at that point, I realized that, she's never gone any further than the Clark house, that there's something's wrong.
A frantic Carl combed the neighborhood, calling out for Michelle and searching every corner he could think of, but there was no sign of her anywhere. Desperate, he finally called the police for help. The investigation into Michelle Dorr's mysterious disappearance began immediately. Over the next 48 hours, Maryland police launched an all-out search effort, but no trace of Michelle was found. As the hours stretched into days with no trace of Michelle, the community began to brace for the worst. In their hunt for answers, detectives interviewed local residents. Among them was Haddon Clark, who had a growing reputation as the neighborhood oddball. Many residents already viewed Haddon with suspicion due to his erratic behavior. That suspicion only deepened when a seemingly routine interrogation with Haddon Clark took an unexpected and dramatic turn.
Here we go.
They were questioning him about Michelle Dorr, and that's when he became very annoyed and irritated. He had an episode of diarrhea. He made a statement that he might have done something that he doesn't remember.
Despite the apparent red flags surrounding Haddon Clark, he appeared to have an airtight alibi. Surprisingly, that alibi came from someone least expected, Michelle's own father, Carl Dorr. Carl stated that he had last seen Michelle at around 2:10 p.m. on the day she went missing. When detectives investigated further, they discovered that Haddon had punched in his time card at the Chevy Chase Country Club at 2:46 p.m. that same afternoon. This timeline left detectives skeptical that Haddon could have abducted Michelle, concealed any evidence of a crime, and made it to work on time. Combined with a lack of concrete evidence to hold him, they had no choice but to let him go. As the investigation progressed, suspicion shifted to someone much closer to Michelle, her father, Carl. When Michelle's mother, Dorothy, learned of her disappearance, she told police that she believed Carl was responsible. Dorothy revealed that she and Carl were in the midst of a bitter custody battle and accused him of previously threatening to harm Michelle if he didn't get his way. With this new information, detectives asked Carl to take a polygraph test, hoping to clarify his involvement. To their shock, Carl failed the test, raising even more questions about his role in Michelle's disappearance.
He's trying to tell me that I didn't pass the polygraph test. That's an impossibility. I didn't have anything to do with Michelle disappearing. Don't tell me I failed the polygraph test. That didn't happen.
Convinced that Carl had either kidnapped or killed his daughter, detectives pressured him for a confession. Just days later, Carl did confess, admitting to having a role in Michelle's disappearance. He also provided 2 potential locations where Michelle's remains could be found, one being the crawl space of his house and the other inside his father's grave. Police searched both places thoroughly, but they found nothing. The case was becoming more perplexing, leaving detectives wondering about the true fate of Michelle.
I couldn't deal with what they were telling me, that we're not going to find Michelle alive. I just was trying to go into some sort of denial about that.
I thought the police were talking about me or something odd, and it's just a total disintegration of my mental health.
Eventually, Carl checked himself into a mental institution for a few days of rest and treatment. After his release, he shocked the public by claiming that he never confessed to Michelle's murder and that the police had misinterpreted his words as an admission of guilt.
That's what Jen Soto did. She went into the mental institution so she can't be interrogated.
He also revealed a new perspective on the events of May 31st, stating that he hadn't seen Michelle at around 2:10 p.m. as he had previously stated, but rather much earlier that day. However, he admitted that he didn't want to come across as an irresponsible parent who hadn't kept track of his child for hours.
Because you're
To back up his story, he took another polygraph test, and this time he passed. The investigation was now back at square one.
But tonight, the physical search for 6-year-old Michelle Dorr is ended. Michelle's father is no longer under psychiatric evaluation. What do you hope for?
I hope that somebody has her that hasn't harmed her. That's what I hope.
Do you still feel that you'll see her someday?
I hope to God, yes.
With the new timeline established, Haddon Clark once again emerged as a possible suspect in Michelle's case, but detectives had no solid evidence to charge him. Days, months, and then years passed, and Michelle's case remained unsolved, with her loved ones still mourning her disappearance. Meanwhile, Haddon continued with his life, but seemed to be drawn to trouble. In September of 1988, Haddon harassed his mother after she confronted him for stealing items from her home in Rhode Island. He was charged with assault and battery and given a year's probation. A few months later, in December 1988, Haddon was evicted by his landlord. In retaliation, he set booby traps in the home, leading to charges of property destruction, though he avoided jail time. In February 1989, he was caught stealing purses and coats from a church while dressed as a woman. This time, he pleaded guilty to theft and served 45 days in jail. For the next 3 years, Haddon mostly kept a low profile, working menial jobs for survival and frequently changing landlords. However, in 1992, his life took a turn when Penny Houtling hired him as a gardener. unknowingly setting the stage for a series of events that would eventually lead him to this interrogation room, accused of one of the most heinous crimes imaginable. All this information was hard for the detectives to digest, but it also allowed them to take a different approach. Haddon's interrogation would go down as one of the most bizarre in criminal history, peeling back the deepest layers of a sickening mind, while also pushing the boundaries of interrogation tactics. It showed just how far the detectives were willing to go to get their man and uncover the truth.
And they handed me a teddy bear. And this teddy bear had on...
That's a cover your ass statement. That's so the police don't look so brutal. Some cops are really brutal, and this is highly offensive because this is how people get away with crimes, is cops misbehaving like this.
A bathing suit that was a replica of what Michelle Dorr had on. And they said, take it in there. Do not let him touch it. But I want you to hold it in your lap, and I want you to make the little arms move, and I want to see what his reaction is. His eyes got huge, and he just smiled from ear to ear and just smirked.
Despite Haddon's strange and unnerving reactions, he remained silent and offered no mention of Michelle during the interrogation. The detectives, undeterred, rotated in and out of the room, each adopting different personas in an effort to break Haddon emotionally. They pushed further, trying to provoke a reaction by confronting him directly with his disturbing desires, wanting to taste blood and flesh.
Do you want to cry? Want to get the tears out?
Greg, what?
What you did to Laura? Don't pick at that. Don't eat scabs. It'll make you sick. Is that how you ate Laura? Cut her up in little pieces until she bled. You tasted the blood, and that tasted good, and you couldn't stop, and you had some more blood. You had some more body parts. Is that what you did to her? That means yes.
She say no.
You got a major problem. You're going around here eating all kinds of it. You know, Jeffrey Dahmer's did.
Yes.
What did Jeffrey get? Why did you get like the problem with Jeffrey Dahmer? You know, he got caught with all these dead people in his apartment, and he had cut their hearts and livers out and put them in the freezer and frozen. Jeffrey Dahmer's kind of like you. He goes there. I don't know whether you ate him, but you might have eaten some. Did you try to eat much? Eat flesh? Eat people?
Haddon remained silent, prompting the detectives to shift tactics. They brought up other infamous cannibal killers and how their actions ultimately led to their downfall, hoping to provoke some kind of reaction from him. When that didn't work, they moved on to discussing his sexuality and preferences, trying to find that one thing that might finally break his silence.
What kind of sex do you
Like
do? You
a
like
lawyer?
when you go out? Do you go out with women, or do you like to go out with men? Who do you prefer? I mean, if we went out on a date, would you be wearing women's clothes, or would you be wearing women's underwear? Do you like stuff like this?
But slowly, the interrogation room began to spiral out of control.
Haddon. You don't like me sitting near you?
Take off your coat. Now get over there and sit down. Sit down in that goddamn chair and you stay seated. Act like a goddamn man, stop acting like a kid.
After exhausting every tactic, two male detectives stepped into the interrogation room, ready to deliver the bombshell. Haddon Clark was being charged with the murder of Laura Houtling. It was a calculated move, the detectives' final card to regain control over the situation. Over the course of their tense 3-hour questioning, they'd noticed something strange. Haddon had an intense aversion to being touched. They decided to exploit this weakness, hoping to provoke a reaction. But what started as a subtle psychological maneuver quickly escalated into chaos, transforming the room into an unpredictable battleground of madness as the detectives pushed Haddon to the brink of his already disturbed mind.
First of all, you're being
I
charged.
hate these cops. This is why people don't like cops.
You have to pat me like that?
This is why people don't like cops. Is this shit right here. And this is a terrible fucking man. And these cops are making it easy for this guy to get away with this shit. This is why people don't like cops.
Hit me? I'm not hitting you, I'm sorry. I just like to be friendly. Okay? Why don't you just sit over there? No, God, no. Come on. So we're gonna go. What's not? Can I sit over there? No. We're gonna sit together. Can I sit over? You and I are gonna be friends. That's good. Hey, buddy. Hey, this is a nice dog. Yeah, I like that dog. What kind of undies you got? I ain't got no girlies undies today, buddy. Ain't no doubt. Oh, ooh, daddy. Jackie ladies.
When getting him mad or embarrassed didn't work, the detectives resorted to another tactic, trying to convince Haddon that his only option was to confess because he wasn't mentally sane. By framing the situation this way, detectives were hoping to either guilt Haddon into admitting the crimes or at the very least, get him to acknowledge his own distorted mental state.
Nobody holds this against him. Everybody realizes that you got a psychological problem. You're sick. Yeah, you're sick. And if I can show that you murdered this girl, you're going to the electric chair. If I can show you're sane. Okay? You understand that 2 murders, mixture serial murder,
Come on.
you should go to the electric chair. If you're sane. If you're insane, you go off to some hospitals. Sometimes they make you hear voices inside your head. You heard a lot of voices? You want me to tell you something else here? Not a little secret we gotta let you know. There was a lady on a street corner across the road in his house who saw you dressed up like a woman. The trench coat, your trench coat. Who was that who walked out of the house? Is there anyone? Just think of her name.
This right here is how he.
Really nice. Did that person carry over somewhere? That's not Hayden. That's somebody else.
He needs a
They
lawyer.
go in the house at night. They go in the door and sneak up to the bedroom with a knife. Yeah. Did it sneak up there with a knife? And Laura was in there asleep, and she was beautiful. And that person got on top of Laura. And got on top of Laura and started got a pillow and put it on Laura.
I can't.
Got a knife out.
I can't. This is a terrible man, but these
This is an awful thing.
That's why
It's
people
an
don't like
awful
cops.
thing to think of, but we have to get it out of you. It's the only way. I think it's almost out. Bring it out. What did that person do with Laura? What do you think, Hayden? How you feel? Let's get back to the nitty-gritty. Come on.
Look.
Hey,
Look.
let's get it out, buddy. Let's get it out. Come on. Come on, Hayden. Let's get it out. There's somebody here that wants to come out. Needs to come out. I will kill you. You understand?
He needs to ask for a lawyer again. This is fucking. I can't. This is why people don't like cops.
Come on, Hayden. Bring it out. Here, drink your coat. Drink your coat and let's go. You ain't Jeffrey Dahmer, was it? Okay. What's your favorite movie? Silence of the Lambs?
Despite their relentless efforts, Haddon refused to divulge any information, leaving the interrogation unresolved. Ultimately, the dramatic session came to an end, and Haddon was taken into custody. The detectives later faced significant criticism for their unorthodox methods, but they stood their ground. They argued that they had taken the moral high ground and that Haddon hadn't been fooled, not because he lacked intelligence, but because he was cunning and manipulative, using silence as his...
He asked for a lawyer.
...his weapon to avoid revealing the truth. For the next 8 months, Haddon Clark remained in detention, while the Montgomery County prosecutors prepared for a high-stakes trial. Despite extensive police searches across 3 states, Laura's body was still missing. With no body, no witnesses, and no confession, the case hinged on circumstantial evidence, 2 key pieces: a synthetic hair strand, and Haddon's fingerprint on the pillowcase. The lack of concrete evidence weighed heavily on everyone, particularly Laura's family and friends, who feared the worst. If the prosecutors failed to secure a conviction, Haddon could be acquitted, and even if Laura's body were eventually discovered, the Fifth Amendment would prevent him from being tried again for the same crime. However, in a dramatic twist, just before the scheduled trial date in June 1993, Haddon Clark stunned everyone by changing his mind.
The defendant in the Hodling case just pled guilty. The plea was accepted. The plea was to second-degree murder.
As part of the plea bargain, Haddon revealed the chilling reasons behind his actions. In his twisted mind, he had come to view Laura's mother, Penny, as a mother figure, and he harbored some strange and bizarre feelings for her.
I love Penny. She offered me donuts, drink. One time when Laura and Penny were up in Massachusetts going to Penny's house, one of Penny's nights. I just got the Penny drink. We came down Penny's night, and ate breakfast. And then when Laura came into the picture, a lot of that stuff stopped.
So in his mind, she really had to go. He really didn't like her. He wanted to be her. Laura really needed to be punished for just being Laura.
Haddon's resentment toward Laura had started to simmer long before the murder, but it was the argument with Penny just days before that added fuel to the fire. The tension between Haddon and Penny had been building, and when she told him she would be leaving town that weekend, it gave him the perfect opportunity to carry out his twisted plan. Just after midnight on October 19, 1992, Haddon set his plan into motion.
I walk around to the barn. I knew where the key to the house was. I was walking the front door. Yeah, I have a dress on, too. I'm dressed up real nice. I have a dress on. Took a gun out of the box in the living room, walked up to her bedroom, put the gun next to her head. I cocked the gun. I was like, I'm serious. You move, I shoot. I had handcuffs this time. And after I handcuffed her, I tied her with rope I had. I made her look at me. I told her, you know my name. My first name starts with an L. And my last name starts with an H. You know my name. You don't call me by my right name and I'll kill you.
Haddon's actions that night were chilling in their cruelty and disturbing in their details. Holding a gun on Laura, he covered her mouth with duct tape, suffocating her in the process. As she lay lifeless, Haddon began to remove the tape from her face with a pair of scissors. In his excitement, his hand slipped, and the sharp shears pierced Laura's neck, causing blood to spill onto the sheets and pillowcase. Obsessed with the idea of taking a souvenir, he severed one of her ears while attempting to remove an earring. After this gruesome act, Haddon sat by her body watching it for nearly an hour, consumed by his twisted satisfaction. At around 3 a.m., he wrapped Laura's body in a queen-sized sheet, slung it over his shoulder, and hid it beneath the cap of his truck bed. Then he returned to the scene of the crime, collected the bloody bedding, and disposed of those in a remote wooded area. Once the evidence was discarded, Haddon returned to the house, changed the bedding to hide the signs of his crime, and went to sleep. The next morning, he dressed as a woman, donning wigs to further fuel his disturbed fantasies. In an eerie final detail, he used Laura's comb to brush the wig, leaving behind a single synthetic hair strand that would eventually become the key piece of evidence linking him to the murder. The confession was shocking, but Haddon had one final revelation to make as per his plea deal.
Haddon Clark and his attorney would take one of the assistant state's attorneys out and show them where Laura Hodling was buried.
Laura's decomposed body was located in a shallow grave in a wooded area near a highway exit ramp in Rockville, just outside Bethesda.
The fact that it led to Laura's body was a really good thing for her mother, her brother, and the rest of us.
The Harvard graduate's body was found last night, buried in a shallow grave in North Bethesda.
I remember thinking I'm glad that her mother can bury her, but nothing felt good about it.
Crazy.
I never felt any relief from anything.
In June 1993, Haddon Clark was sentenced to 30 years in prison for Laura's murder. Although everyone believed that Haddon's saga had come to a close, with him now confined behind prison bars, it quickly became clear that his story was far from over. He would continue to make waves even within the confines of his cell. In 1999, Jack Truitt, a convicted murderer, found himself sharing a cell with Haddon Clark at the Eastern Correctional Institution in Westover, Maryland. What Truitt didn't anticipate was the depth of madness and the disturbing secrets he would uncover during their time together. Among Haddon's unsettling behaviors, one that particularly disgusted Truitt was his habit of hoarding food, allowing it to rot, and then consuming it days later. However, what unnerved Truitt the most was when Haddon began confessing his crimes to him, believing that Truitt was Jesus Christ.
He really believes that I'm Jesus Christ. He had to confess to me that he killed someone in every state in the United States.
Eager to escape Haddon's delusional ramblings, Truitt devised a suggestion that would ultimately unveil a shocking new chapter in Haddon's twisted life.
Whatever you're saying, just write it down. When you feel like you need to tell me something, draw it, write it. Don't talk to me about it. And he said, okay. And that's when he started, man. He was just going crazy right down. Haddon's art was so creepy.
All these pictures that he drew were crime scenes.
He would draw clues to other people he killed.
Initially uninterested in Haddon's bizarre and horrifying confessions, Truitt became curious when Haddon mentioned Michelle Dorr's murder. Although authorities had always suspected him, they never had enough evidence to charge him with the crime. Truitt realized that if he could get Haddon to reveal critical information, he might use it to negotiate with authorities for a reduced sentence. After some persuasion, his plan succeeded, and Haddon agreed to talk to the detectives in Truitt's presence.
Back in the 60s and 70s, I was responsible for bringing cannabis to the shore, and I'm kind of proud of it.
Jack told me that Haddon had murdered Michelle Dorr and buried her in a park in Montgomery County, Maryland. I then request one of the correctional officers to bring Haddon Clark into the room. I introduced myself to him and said, I understand that you'd like to talk to me, but as long as he stays, looking at Jack. I said, well, he can stay.
Haddon went on to explain that on the fateful day of May 31st, 1986, he was furious with his brother for kicking him out. Tragically, the consequences of his anger fell on innocent Michelle, who had wandered over to the Clark house to meet her friend Elizabeth, Jeffrey's daughter. Haddon claimed that the moment he opened the door and saw the little girl, he knew he wanted to kill her.
Michelle came to the house. He said that Elizabeth was upstairs playing in the bedroom and she could go on up. Since he was a chef, he had these knives, and that's when he went upstairs and confronted Michelle. And he killed her in Elizabeth's bedroom.
Haddon threw the little girl to the floor and was on her so quickly that she didn't have a chance to scream. He continued his brutal attack until she was dead. After killing Michelle, Haddon meticulously cleaned up the blood, placed her body in a plastic bag, and then concealed it inside a duffel bag. He then put the bag in the back of his truck and went to work as if nothing had happened. Following his shift, Haddon drove to a wooded area in Maryland where he buried Michelle's body. Disturbingly, he also claimed that before burying her remains, he had cannibalized parts of her flesh. With Michelle's tragic last moments now pieced together, detectives finally had enough evidence to secure a conviction against Haddon. He was sentenced to an additional 30 years for Michelle's murder. For his role in uncovering the truth and helping bring justice, Jack Truitt was later released on parole. However, despite everything, Haddon continued to withhold the exact location of Michelle's remains. In January 2000, Haddon had a change of heart and led authorities to a wooded ravine near Route 29 in Silver Spring, Maryland, where he had buried Michelle.
I was just standing about 20 yards from him, and I looked down and I saw, it looked like a twig at first, and focused in on it. It was a spring.
After digging for a bit, a pink piece of fabric that popped right out of the ground.
We knew we had found Michelle Dorr.
Everyone wept.
After 14 years, Carl Dorr was finally able to lay his daughter to rest in peace.
It was good to have a place to finally bury Michelle.
I'm just so sorry she was at the wrong place at the wrong time and she met Haddon Clark.
However, this saga was far from over. Haddon began making even more disturbing claims, stating that it was not he himself but Kristen, his female and more dominant persona, who was responsible for the murders.
That's me. Nice to meet. Okay, that's Kristen. What did you sign for name on there? Kristen.
One of his favorite names to refer to himself as was Kristen E. Bluefin.
That's not real name. Kristen. How do you go to one of this? Okay. Kristen exists. I feel Kristen.
Although detectives suspected that Kristen was merely another shield to avoid responsibility for his crimes and seek attention, Haddon insisted that the name was deeply tied to his traumatic and dysfunctional childhood and the way it had shaped his twisted mind.
I saw your mom, she called you bad names.
My brothers and sisters called their friends. I was raised like a girl anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Why did they raise you like a girl?
Sometimes my parents would use that as a punish. Instead of getting physical with me, they had me wear a dress for school.
Haddon's claims about his childhood were particularly chilling, as they reflected a deeply skewed sense of reality that extended beyond just himself. His elder brother, Bradfield Clark, had been convicted in 1985 for killing and dismembering a female co-worker in California, with reports suggesting he had eaten parts of her corpse. As if this wasn't unsettling enough, detectives began to grow increasingly concerned about Haddon's other claims. He began leaving cryptic clues that hinted that Laura and Michelle might not have been his only victims, suggesting that there were many more.
Well, some things I wouldn't change, but the bad things I did, the murders I did, well, I didn't know. I know that. You didn't ask about Laura Benson or Mary Pine. It's Bonnie Beckett with Wiser.
What does that mean?
Michelle Dorr, Silver Spring, Maryland. Laura Holding, Augusta, Maryland. Maureen Benson, Wallingford, Connecticut. Mary Mott, New Canaan, Connecticut. Sarah Fryer, Wayland, Massachusetts. Bonnie Beckett, Wiser, Brooklyn, New York.
How do you know their names so well and where they're from?
I get to those areas. I've been all over the United States. I remember certain instances that I was in the area.
Haddon, who are all these women you just brought up, these names? Who are they? How do you know them?
Wait, someone's at my door. Hey, I gotta go.
Detectives were left uncertain whether Haddon was merely toying with them for amusement, or if he was genuinely providing clues about his gruesome crimes. Regardless, they were prepared to take the risk. As the investigation progressed, the FBI took a keen interest in the case. In April 2000, Haddon Clark agreed to guide a team of FBI agents to Cape Cod, where he claimed there were more victims buried beneath the sandy soil. However, his cooperation came with a peculiar demand.
Kristen was the one killing these people, so he had to be Kristen if he was going to take us back to his burial sites.
He would not go out unless he had on a lady's bra and panties, so we bought them for him. And he put them on. He put on a wig, too. And then he had the undergarments underneath.
He put a wig on and, that they'd put him in a woman's shirt in an attempt to try to, get him to cooperate a little more.
Despite the FBI's efforts, the search in Cape Cod yielded no evidence of additional victims. However, in December of that same year, Haddon directed investigators to his grandfather's estate, leading to a shocking discovery.
Right about here, there was about a 3 foot by maybe 3 or 4 foot old trailer, kind of a tag along, should hook onto the back of your yard tractor. And underneath was just sand. Trooper Barrett had a metal prod, almost like a big long stick. She took that bar and put it down into the earth, and we heard this boom. It made the hair stand up on the back of everybody's neck. And we knew that there was definitely something there. So we were able to dig down and unearth that, and it was a plastic 5-gallon bucket. We weren't quite sure what we were going to find, perhaps some type of body parts. I mean, we really didn't know. After taking the top of that off, we observed a number of pieces of jewelry that Haddon said were trophies from different people that he had murdered over the course of his life.
Among the roughly 200 pieces of women's jewelry found at the estate, several items were identified as belonging to Laura Houghteling. However, detectives were unable to link the other pieces to any known victims. Yet, it gave rise to some chilling theories.
I think the idea of Laura Hodeling's had a trophy in that bucket. There's reason to believe that some of those others, if not all, were attached to actual human beings.
The FBI behavioral science estimated that he had perhaps killed somewhere between 12 and 22 people. And part of the reason that they were able to conclude that was because he was so comfortable around death.
Although Haddon Clark may not have garnered the same level of notoriety as infamous killers like Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy, his crimes were no less haunting. It seemed that wherever Haddon went, death followed. While we may never know the full extent of his actions, there's no denying that he is one of the most evil souls to ever walk this earth.
Jesus loves the little children. All children in the world. Red, yellow, black, and white, they are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the little children in the world.
At 72 years old, Haddon Clark is serving 2 consecutive 30-year prison sentences at the Eastern Correctional Institution in Westover, Maryland. Sadly, despite his horrific crimes, he is now eligible for parole. Those who have encountered him up close continue to fear his potential release, as they all believe he remains a dangerous threat to society.
I thought about him getting out. Occasionally, I'll run his name through the system to see where he's at.
We knew that if he got out of jail, nobody would be safe.
He killed himself. Anybody that crosses his path, his instinct is to lash out.
Look, my hope is that any sane parole board does the right thing for the community and that Haddon never has released, even at a very old age.
And who better to vouch for this than the people who have directly suffered from his actions?
It's good to see her again, like this, smiling and living life.
This is
If it wasn't for Haddon Clark, she'd be here.
It's breathtaking to think about this one man's illness, sickness, and vile, horrible mind. How, his actions have just created ripples through so many people's lives and sent us in directions that we shouldn't have gone in.
Before we conclude, we would like to extend our heartfelt condolences to the loved ones of Laura Houghteling and Michelle Dorr. May time bring the healing and peace. What do you think about Haddon Clark's claims? Do you believe it's fabricated, or do you think there might be more victims out there? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. If you have any cases to discover, feel free to leave suggestions. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to Mysterious 7 for more captivating true stories like this one. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.
This is 20.
So I wasn't planning on watching another one of these. The first one just pissed me off because of the cop. Because he asked for a lawyer and they didn't give him one. And I was like, man, I can't watch this alone. So I went live and watched it with y'all. I wasn't planning on watching another one. I'm supposed to be doing dishes. But maybe we could watch another one and fold laundry. Why don't we do that? Michael, are you still here? Uh-oh. All right. We're going to fold laundry.
Devon Howard. Devon is sitting in a cold interrogation room alongside his 3 co-accomplices due to their suspected involvement in the brutal shooting and murder of 27-year-old Andrew Janicek. Coincidentally, all four claim that they had no involvement in the crime whatsoever, and in fact don't seem to take the situation seriously at all.
Where did you pick her up at? Relax, it's okay.
No, I'm fine. I'm just tired.
Okay.
I was involved in the murder of somebody.
Oh, that's right there.
What the group doesn't realize at this time is that Andrew's murder was fully recorded on multiple security cameras.
Are you hanging out or are you leaving?
And shows a man getting out of 19-year-old Alicia Valdez's car before killing Andrew. Even more disturbing is that the same vehicle would drive over Andrew's lifeless body before fleeing the scene. Alexis Ellis, a bystander at the scene, would hear the gunshot go off and rush over to Andrew to perform CPR while her friend Alyssa called 911.
Jeffcom 911, what is the address of the emergency?
I don't know. I'm just at the corner. It's like Sheridan and 20th. Some guy just got shot, and they took off in a silver two-door Pontiac, and he's on the ground. He's like face down.
Did you see the person that shot him?
Did you see the person with the gun? Alexis, answer my question. Did you see the person with the gun? She said it looked like a little Mexican dude.
Okay, and it was just the one male in that vehicle, or did she see anyone else?
He got into the passenger seat of the car. Okay, he's hit in the chest. He's got bullets in the chest. We're flipping him over because he's not, hang on, he's not breathing.
Unfortunately, Andrew would pass away within minutes. Even more unsettling is that the same car model would be seen at a local gas station later that night, where everyone inside would happily buy snacks, joke, and laugh as if nothing had happened just hours prior. The footage inside the gas station would identify the occupants of the vehicle as 19-year-old Alicia Valdez, 20-year-old Caleb Vigil, and 20-year-old Devon Howard Lopez. While painting these three out to be killers just based on their car make is clearly premature, it's enough evidence for police to file a warrant for the arrest of the three suspects so they can bring them in for questioning to try and determine if the bunch had any involvement in Andrew's death. What makes this case so interesting is the amount of blatant lies and misinformation that would come out during these interrogations. You would think that at least one of the suspects would feel guilty and confess, but everyone involved would fabricate their story and lie to lessen their perceived role in the crime. But at this point, the police have yet to apprehend any suspects. Their only lead is a lifeless body sprawled on the pavement and two shaken witnesses who made the 911 call. Police start by questioning Alexis, the witness who called the cops. Remember, this is an interview and not an interrogation, as currently Alexis is considered a witness rather than a suspect. But there is something suspicious about her that the detectives want to clarify. 3 years earlier, Alexis was charged as an accessory to murder after her boyfriend shot and killed one of his friends from the vehicle she was driving. The detective leading the interview, Nathan Geerdes, would discover this information during a brief preparation period prior to the interview and is curious as to if maybe she had more to do with Andrew's murder than she was letting on.
We pulled up, we parked in the back parking lot. My friend got out to go into the dispensary. Sitting on my phone, playing on Facebook, heard the shot, thought it was a firework for a second, so I looked up and saw the victim face down on the floor, and the shooter, there was a silver Pontiac in front of the victim, and the shooter was in front of the car, still kind of standing by the victim's body with the gun pointed at him. And then got back into the Pontiac on the passenger side. They hesitated for a minute on which way they're gonna pull off. Looked like they were trying not to hit him. They kind of looked around the parking lot to see if anyone saw it. I was kind of trying to duck as much as possible. I got out of the car. Once I saw that they were gone, ran up to him. I said, "Are you hit?" He said, "Yes, please help me." Called 911, let him know there was an ambulance on the way. Sounded like he was kind of crying. He wasn't saying anything else. After 2 minutes, the crying stopped. So went to check for a pulse. There was no pulse.
Big neck?
Big neck.
You all right?
Yeah.
Take note of Alexis's posture when discussing the shooting. She's leaned in towards the officer and seems comfortable, showing little signs of resistance. This language presents truthfulness on her behalf, so it's unlikely she feels any guilt, which likely means that her recollection of events is indeed accurate to what she believed happened.
So you hear nothing. The first thing that catches your attention is a shot. Okay? Are you familiar with guns?
That's what I'm on probation for.
How so?
I was dating a guy for 3 weeks. He asked for a ride and shot and killed somebody at the King Supers on Sheridan Hamilton in 2015.
So you heard a gun go off?
Yeah. He was 5 feet in front of me on that one too.
Got some tremendous luck.
Yeah.
Did you get charged?
Yeah. Accessory to a crime, F4.
How does this make you feel?
I don't know. I mean, it was hard. I was glad I was able to react like that because I didn't react like that with my case. At the same time, my PO and everybody's probably gonna shoot my ass for it, but he didn't die alone. He knew somebody was there trying to help him. Just being around it and being around the situation.
Is it your fault?
No. But there's...
Did you know this was gonna go down?
No.
This interview clearly showcased the responses suspects make when dealing with discomfort. We could physically see her subtle movement patterns and how they coincided with certain emotions Alexis was feeling. Her body language makes sense. She felt uncomfortable while discussing her own criminal history, which is completely reasonable. However, when discussing a crime she had no part in, her demeanor changed significantly, with an open posture and willingness to answer every question. And with this, we should be now more prepared to analyze the interrogation of a less innocent suspect later on in this video. Following this interview, police would continue their hunt to find the whereabouts of the 3 inside the suspected vehicle, and it wouldn't take them long at all. Just a few hours later, at 4 a.m., an officer spotted a vehicle closely resembling the one described by Alexis driving recklessly and pulled it over. It quickly became clear that this was no ordinary traffic stop.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Hey, Officer Lloyd Denver Police. You can't turn left there.
Oh, I can't?
No, it says there's a big sign up there that says do not turn left. That's just,
oh, yeah.
You don't have a front plate either. Is it up in the window?
Yeah, because
okay.
My thing is broken, so I got to get a new one to actually hold it.
The bracket?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, do you have your license, registration, insurance, ma'am?
There's those.
Okay.
There you go.
Gracias. Alicia Valdez. Alicia, gotta have you step out for a second. Don't grab anything with you, okay? Just step on out for me. Yeah, put your hands behind your back. You got a warrant, okay?
Why?
Why do you have a warrant? You probably know that better than I do, but we're gonna do some research and tell you exactly what it is. Yeah, they put out a felony warrant out for you.
A felony warrant?
Yeah.
Yep. Do you have anything on you I need to know about?
I don't.
Okay.
All right, if you wanna watch them, I'll pat him down real quick. I'm just gonna set you down on the curb, okay? You just put your wallet on the top, man. I'll give it back to you in a sec here, okay? Go ahead and just put it right behind. You're not in trouble, you're not going to jail, you're not getting arrested right now. All right, let's get that shit down real quick, man. You go put your phone in your pocket. Same thing as your partner, you're not going to jail, you're not getting handcuffed. I'm just doing this for while you're gonna be sitting behind us, okay? Okay, anything in your hood or in your pockets you know about?
No.
Perfect, okay, you can go have a seat with them, okay? Is this your gold phone? Okay.
At this very moment, the officer would discover a pistol inside the vehicle. Caleb had just stated there were no guns inside the vehicle just minutes earlier, so the officer quickly places Caleb under arrest so they can safely investigate this increasingly tense situation.
Stand up, man. Stand up. Travis, behind your back. You're not gonna tell me there's a gun in the seat next to you? What? You weren't gonna tell me you're gonna try to leave a gun on the seat when you left? That'd be nice to know, wouldn't it? Oh, and a pocket full of bullets. How about this? I'm about to get out of the car. Officer, I have a gun on me. Right? What's that? One more person? They're all hooked. Did you let them know that this is in the car? What is it? SCCY 9mm.
All 4 would be arrested following the discovery of Caleb's pistol. However, throughout the entire process, Alicia, the owner of the car, would stay eerily optimistic, as if she hadn't yet connected the dots that her arrest was related to Andrew's murder.
stay right there for a second?
Yes, sir.
Let's have a seat over here in this black chair.
If you could possibly find me a restroom, I'd really appreciate it.
Now that the suspects have finally been secured, detectives would begin the process of individually interrogating all 4 suspects, with separate preparation and planning made for each interrogation in attempts to get as many differing stories and general information as possible. They would begin with Alicia Valdez, who was allegedly the driver of the vehicle. They sit her in an open room with a large TV to her left and a digital clock behind. This is drastically different from the cold, empty room seen earlier in this video. This is done purposefully. This room is meant to feel welcoming and open. The table creates a subconscious, comforting barrier between the suspect and the detectives, something that's absent in many more aggressive interrogations. The objective is to get Alicia to feel comfortable and willing to speak to the detectives. Remember, at this point, Alicia knows very little about what evidence the cops have. She has no idea that everything was recorded on CCTV, and they know that her car was there. The plan is to set a trap that prevents Alicia from denying that she was at the scene, so the more willing she is to talk at the beginning, the better. That's why they start the questioning off lightly, but it'll ramp up in no time at all.
Yeah, just have a seat right there. Want some water?
Oh, thank you.
No? Okay. It's over here if you want it.
Okay, thank you.
You all right?
Cold. Yeah. It was nice earlier.
Yeah.
The detectives offer her water to immediately try to appear friendly and form a bond. People are much more likely to tell a friend something than they are a stranger, so this is an extremely important step. You'll notice this friendly demeanor slowly fades and changes as the interrogation continues.
And where do you live at?
Right now, kind of a bit of everywhere.
Okay. Where do you?
In my car.
In your car? Okay.
Keep this fact in mind for later on in the interrogation, as the detectives will use it to prove she was at the scene later on.
We're in the car with you today. It's your car, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long have you owned that car?
I've had that car for, I believe, about 6 months.
So 6 months about?
Mm-hmm.
You owned it? Where did you get it?
I bought it from a public auction down in Colorado Springs.
Okay. Okay, so you have keys to the car.
Mm-hmm.
Have you given your keys to anybody else?
No, the only ones that were there are the ones that were in the car.
Okay, so when you bought the car, there was one set of keys?
Mm-hmm. And then I had another maid, but they're together. They're on the same.
Okay.
This is a simple question, and it should have a definitive answer. Based on what she's just said, the fact that the only 2 keys are in her possession, there's no reason for her to be unsure who has access to the car. She's deflecting.
So you say you've been kind of homeless here recently?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, living out of that car?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where else have you been staying?
Sometimes with gentlemen in the green out there.
Caleb?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we'll talk about who else was in the car with you tonight?
My boyfriend and another young woman, I don't know.
Who's your boyfriend?
Devon's.
Where'd you meet him?
Mutual friends.
Okay.
If you haven't noticed already, Alicia is extremely nervous. We're 10 minutes into this interview, and her leg hasn't stopped bouncing up and down the entire time. She's also been moving around in her chair and avoiding eye contact while answering very simple questions. Even without the evidence that they'd already collected beforehand, the detectives would likely already be convinced that she played a part in what happened. Now it's just about exploiting these weaknesses and extracting a confession using everything they know. And the process starts by establishing a timeline.
Who are the other 2 people in the car?
Caleb, I met him through mutual friends too. I haven't really known him that long.
What about the girl? Do you know her name?
I have no idea who she is.
When did you meet her?
Just tonight.
Where did you pick her up at?
I don't know, because I don't know Denver like that.
Where were you at before you left to go pick this girl up?
Caleb's.
Was Devon there with you?
Mm-hmm.
So you were a few hours at Caleb's house, and then Caleb asked you to go pick this girl up, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you picked her up, and you were headed back to Caleb's house when the police stopped you. Like, have I got all that right?
We were headed back, but I stopped at the 7-Eleven down the street. So
okay. Which 7-Eleven?
Get some drinks. The one off of Colfax and Ogden, I think.
Okay.
The detectives now have a story that Alicia is locked into, meaning that if anything she says contradicts this, they'll know she's lying, and they can use it to trap her to put on more pressure. Alicia, however, is playing a game of her own and trying her best to dodge questions and hide certain details from the cops, but she's fighting a losing battle, and the cops know it.
How long have you been staying at Caleb's house?
Not really a lot.
I'm just trying to get a sense of like every other night, every night, 5 nights a week. What? Just give me an idea.
Maybe like 1 to 2 nights.
1 to 2 nights a week. What were you doing today before you went over to Caleb's house?
Mainly just hanging out with my boyfriend. He's trying to keep me distracted off today.
Because of the, that's, we all have stuff like that.
I know.
Yeah. Okay, so where were you hanging out at?
Really just everywhere driving.
Driving?
But that was about it.
Okay. Relax, it's okay.
No, I'm fine. I'm just tired.
Okay.
But Alicia is all too aware that the final thing they did last night is exactly what police want to know about, and she absolutely cannot bring it up.
You stayed anywhere else since you come to Denver other than Caleb's or your car?
I stayed at this one girl's house. I don't remember her name. Like I said, I met her through mutual friends. But those friends that I did meet her through, I'm no longer really in contact with.
Okay, how long ago was that you stayed at her house? A week ago?
A week or something.
Did Devin stay with you at her house too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's with me all the time.
This is an extremely important statement. If they can confirm that either Devon or Alicia was at the scene of the crime, they'll be able to lock both of them into it. The detective immediately realizes the importance of this and forces her to double down on her statement.
Now, has Devin been with you the entire time?
Mm-hmm.
Since you've been here in Denver?
Mm-hmm.
And since he stayed with you at her house?
Mm-hmm.
And he's been staying with you in your car or at Caleb's this whole time, up until tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, has Devin been in the car with you every time you've been out in the car?
I believe so, yes.
Now, on top of the information from before, the detectives know that wherever her car was, both her and Devon had to have been there too. This is where the second stage of the interrogation begins. They're aware she's guilty, have an extremely detailed timeline of events, and know she's feeling extremely uncomfortable. Now, the plan is simple. They want her to give up as much information about the actual murder and the other suspects as possible, so they can easily implicate everyone else that's waiting for their interrogation. So the detectives take a short break. When they sit back down, they plan to switch gears completely. They're going to heavily apply the pressure and attempt to extract a full confession.
Thank you for all this. It's pretty apparent to me you're being truthful about things. And it's also apparent that there's some stuff you don't want to talk about. But we've been sitting here talking for a while.
These are good cops, way better than the ones a minute ago that we watched in the first episode.
I genuinely like you. I think you're a good kid. Well, to me, you're a kid.
No, she's messy.
Well, I mean, I am a kid.
Yeah, you're younger than my daughter. Okay. You're up here from the Springs. You've had stuff in your life, but now you're up here in Denver hanging with these guys that you've got, some histories. Some rough history, not your kind of history, right? Mm-hmm. You're kind of out of your element up here, all right? I don't know that you got yourself into trouble, other than the people you're hanging with, but these other people have gotten you into a lot of trouble.
Who?
Caleb, for one.
He got me in a lot of trouble.
You just told me, we spent a long time, you were very clear that no one else has been driving your car for the last week. Okay? That you and Devon, or you and Devon and Caleb have been in your car. There's a few random people you don't know, but even when those random people are in the car, you and Devon are in the car. And that's you staying with that?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It's a common tactic to give a suspect an excuse for what they've done. In this case, the detective says he genuinely believes she's a good kid and has just been swept along in what's happened. It's likely he'll also tell her at some point soon that if she helps them out, they might be able to give her a much lighter sentence. It's also important to note that he's still trying to keep a friendly demeanor to her, and the reason for this hasn't changed. If he starts to get angry at her now, she might become closed off and refuse to tell them anything. If anything, he's even trying to seem fatherly, choosing to mention his daughter and calling her a kid, something that could even be a response to her saying her father passed away when she was younger. However, all of this is leading up to something. They're finally going to reveal why she's really there and exactly what they know.
So, remember the day that it was raining? It was snowing, real bad weather? That was Friday.
Mm-hmm.
That night, the night before all that snow and rain,
Mm-hmm.
do you remember where you were that night?
Say I could not tell you.
Okay. Do you remember being in a dark parking lot that night?
Okay, I don't know.
Okay, look at me. Your car is at the scene of a murder. Someone got out of your car, shot someone, and killed them. Got back into your car and drove away. You just told me that you were driving your car all week. You need to tell me the truth.
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
I don't.
We have it on video. I know that the person who shot this guy is a guy. I know it wasn't you. I know it was your car. You tell me you're the only one driving your car, so you were driving the car.
I mean, yeah, but I don't recall being in wherever you're saying I was.
Picture yourself in this situation. If you'd just been told that police believe you were at the scene of the crime, would your first response be, I don't recall? Anybody innocent would be shocked to hear this information and do everything they could to clear their name and distance themselves from the crime. Alicia was there.
They say
and
that
now the
about
detectives are
guilty
more
people
certain of this
that
than ever,
distance
and
themselves.
they're starting to get frustrated.
Honestly, you need to be honest with me here.
I am?
No, you're not. I do know you were driving the car. Now, driving the car could make you an accessory to murder. If you're going to sit here and tell me you don't remember, no one in the world, no one. You put yourself in my position, okay? I know you were driving the car. I know your car was there because I got video of it.
I really don't.
Put yourself in my position. Do you think anybody in the world is going to believe that you don't remember that?
I don't know. I just, like I said, I drive everywhere. And
Yeah, you would have remembered this, though.
This is a chilling line from the detective, and you can clearly see it almost startles Alicia. The sight of that man being shot will be burned into her mind, and being so clearly reminded of it would be jolting, to say the least. In fact, the detectives didn't even realize exactly how traumatizing it might have been until just moments later.
Tonight, Caleb had a gun on him.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know he had a gun on him?
No, because I don't just pat everybody down that comes in my car.
You know he owns a gun, right? You're staying at his place. You drive with him every day.
Not every day, but...
Well, I mean, so he probably carries a gun with him for protection. In the parts of town.
Well, really, I don't really like seeing guns. I don't really like being around guns.
But
only because of what happened to my dad.
Have you seen him with a gun before?
Not really, no, because I don't pay attention.
What happened to your dad with a gun?
He was murdered.
He was murdered?
Yeah.
Okay. With a gun. So this was probably pretty traumatic for you, seeing someone murdered with a gun.
I did not see anybody do
It
that.
happened right in front of your car.
Like I said, I don't recall.
Notice how quickly the detective hones in on her father's murder and how similar that may have been to this incident. He's looking for any opening to make her feel uncomfortable and guilty. And as horrible as it may sound, this is about as good as you can get. So the detectives take one last break to think about their final move and come back with the last and possibly most damning piece of evidence of all.
20 minutes, my age.
Water or something? Been on the other side of this, haven't you? with your dad. You've been on the other side of this whole thing, haven't you?
What does that mean?
I mean, you had a family member murdered. So you've seen the other side of this.
Well, not really. Not really. They let the man that did it go away.
They did. How'd that feel?
Mm-hmm.
Did they catch him and not?
And they let him go? I mean, the way I see it, it's less. Go ahead and live it.
No,
you know?
that's not all right. You don't believe that. When you got stopped tonight, there was a gun in your car.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the gun that they took out of your car?
I didn't see it, no.
You didn't see it, but they took the gun out of your car. Okay, that was the gun that was used to murder this man. And prove that too. That's an easy one. The gun that was in your car.
You sure it was?
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yes, I can prove that. That's easy.
Mm-hmm.
The bullet that we dug out of this man's chest at the autopsy came from that gun that just came out of your car. That's a fact too. Your car was in the parking lot where he was shot. You tell me, how did the gun that murdered a man get into your car?
I don't know.
The detectives get very little other information out of her from this point onwards, but they've already gotten more than enough. They've heavily implicated her in the crime, and it sounds as though Devon had to have been there with her too. It's at this point that we'll take a break from the suspect's interrogation, as unfortunately, convicting the criminals is only one half of these officers' jobs. And while all of this is going on, another team of detectives and officers are tasked with the brutal job of breaking the news of Andrew's death to his family. Andrew's girlfriend Jessica was the only one awake, so in the middle of the night, she'd get a knock on the door from a group of detectives.
All right, Jessica. Well, I appreciate you answering my questions. So I have some news for you. It's not. I'm just going to come out and say it. Andrew's dead.
You're joking?
I'm not joking. Andrew is dead.
What happened?
He was shot, and he died in the parking lot.
Oh my god! Have you guys already informed his mom or anything?
You're the first person I was able to get a hold of, and I know that this is hard to hear.
Oh god!
This clip is devastating, as it seems like Jessica had absolutely no idea of any of the events that transpired earlier that night. As far as she was aware, Andrew was simply going out to get them barbecue dinner. However, as sad as this is, detectives have to consider the possibility of Andrew having some sort of connection to the group. For all they know, this could have been a drug deal gone wrong or some other illegal activity that caused the shooting. With this in mind, detectives would bring Jessica to the station where they could conduct a formal interview to determine if Andrew had any prior connection to the group that killed him. While preparing for the interview, a strange discovery would be made. Police were given an anonymous tip that Jessica's own brother had been planning to kill Andrew. The two had supposedly a recurring issue with one another that had gotten progressively worse. This is awfully coincidental, and something detectives need to get to the bottom of.
My brother just saw it on the news. They just put it on the news.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. And then I saw the picture of him on there.
Okay. I bet that was rough. So I received information going back a year, maybe 2 years. Your brother had threatened Andrew.
Yeah,
Basically.
he didn't threaten him directly. It was indirectly to me. Meaning I was driving to work one morning and we were having a fight, and that's when he really unnerved me. So I told Andrew, and then Andrew wanted to take it to the police, and the police said your best option would be just to move away from the situation. So we did.
What was said? I mean, it was obviously fairly egregious if...
Basically, it was just probably something to the effect, I'll just take him out too.
What do you think he meant by that?
I mean, well, the first thought to my head is to kill him, you know, taking someone out.
While these comments from Jessica's brother are disturbing, Jessica doesn't seem too bothered by it now, but at the time, they took it seriously enough to move houses just to get away from him. But the detective can't just take Jessica's word for this. Luckily, there are some simple ways that he might be able to prove if he was involved or not.
What kind of car does your brother drive?
A Pathfinder.
What color is that?
Green. Well, like a dark forest green.
Does your brother have access to firearms or anything like that?
He's not allowed to.
Why not?
He has charges against him for past stupidity.
Okay.
And I don't know all those crimes because I didn't bother to try to talk to him about them.
The description of his cars don't match up with the one on CCTV at all, and if he's not allowed access to any firearms, then it's very unlikely that he was their guy. However, before they wrap up the interview, Jessica asks a final, devastating question.
Can I just ask you one question?
Sure.
Andrew? Can I ask you, where he was shot? Just because his mom told me that when he was shot, the witness who saw it ran to him and stayed with him until he passed.
He was shot in the chest. Okay.
Yeah. You don't deserve that at all.
No, nobody deserves that. So, from all accounts, from what you've been saying, it seems like he was a very good guy.
Yeah.
This question echoed in the detectives' heads for the rest of this case. It really seemed like Andrew was a nice, peaceful man who was brutally killed that night. Detectives would go on to interview Jessica's brother as well and managed to fully clear his name as a suspect. Caleb, Devon, and Alicia had no connection to Andrew. This was a cold-blooded murder. This case had just taken a far more sinister turn, and detectives had to find justice for not only Andrew, but for the rest of his family. After Alicia's interrogation, they would bring in Caleb, the man who they at this point believe actually pulled the trigger. But Caleb wasn't planning on making things easy. His interrogation lasts just 4 minutes, but opens up an entirely new side to this investigation, filled with dozens of shocking new pieces of evidence, all sparked by just one tiny thing that he said.
All right, Caleb. It's been a long night, huh?
Yeah.
All right, Caleb, I'm Detective John Meone. I'm a detective here with Denver, and I'm going to talk to you about your traffic stop, your friends, and the gun that you had on you tonight. What's your home address, Caleb?
1548 in Fountain.
If you want to talk to me about what happened, your answer is yes. If you don't want to talk to me, you should say no.
No, without avoiding.
Okay.
The interrogation ended here, but unbeknownst to Caleb, he gave away a crucial piece of evidence, his address. And it took police no time at all to obtain a search warrant.
Police, open up the door! Police, open the door! Show me your hands, show me your hands. Step up. Who else is in here?
Nobody, just me, sir. I don't live here. This is not my house. This is a friend's house of mine. I apologize.
If you're in here, make yourself known. Do it now! Police department, come out! Come out with your hands up!
That was one of Caleb's friends, and he's one of the 3 keys inside this apartment that would unlock the case for the detectives. The second was this giant stock of 9mm bullets that perfectly matched the bullet found lodged inside Andrew's body. And if that wasn't damning enough, there was one more piece of evidence inside that was the most shocking of all, but the police hadn't even realized it yet. Instead, they wanted to have a quick conversation with the man they found inside. It seems that Caleb was known to this guy as Modelo, and Devon as Silencio. Often friends of suspects like this tend to keep their mouths shut out of trust, but this time, well, see for yourself.
Modelo got out of the car, I guess, to go mug this dude with a gun. Dude dropped the wallet on the ground. Modelo unloaded the gun into somebody, I guess. So whoever was in the car, I guess, Silencio just told me that they saw him get back up or whatever, and they ran him over as they drove off. That's all I know.
This was everything detectives could have asked for, but what came next was their most haunting discovery of all. Inside Caleb's house was a receipt from 7-Eleven dated just minutes after the murder, proving that Caleb, Devon, and Alicia were indeed the ones laughing at the gas station after the murder. All of these events transpired over 24 hours, but police had left out one crucial suspect, Devon, aka Silencio, and it was for good reason. Police knew Devon was desperate to keep his girlfriend Alicia from getting charged, so if they could use that against him, they might be able to get him to admit to the murders. The mounting pressure on Devon became so intense that he started confessing to other crimes and robberies he had committed in the past.
I'll tell you straight up, me and Caleb together have done crimes before. Okay.
What you're about to witness is a 21-year-old talking himself into over 300 years in prison.
Yeah. Devon?
Devon.
Do you go by Devon?
Yeah.
I'm probably going to screw that up, so if I do, I apologize, alright?
Don't worry about it.
So, Devon, like I said, my name is Mark Spurgeon. I'm an investigator with the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. You know Nate, right? You know we're both cops?
Yep.
Okay. It's been my understanding that when they made contact with you this afternoon, that you were willing to talk to us again. Is that true?
To an extent, yeah.
Okay. To an extent? Okay. I just like to start and make sure you understand your rights, because one of the things I don't want to do in this room is violate your rights. You have these rights, and I think they're important to you. So, you know where you're at?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, kinda.
All right. I know this sounds stupid, but I want to make sure that you understand what we're doing. Where you at?
Some police station.
Okay. All right. What state are you in?
Colorado.
Who's the president?
Trump.
The detectives are being perhaps even more careful at the beginning of this interrogation than they were in Alicia's. They want to confirm that Devon is of sound mind right now, leaving the defense absolutely no opportunity to invalidate this piece of evidence in court. They can't leave any room for error, because they know he's likely only here for one reason: to confess.
I'm into this investigation somewhat late, so I kind of want to start out and ask you, why are we sitting in this room? Why are we here? Fill me in.
I was involved in the murder of somebody.
Okay.
That's why.
That's why? So tell me about it, because there's a reason that you want to talk about it, right?
I just want to get Mother out of trouble because she had nothing to do with it.
All right. Like I said, I come in late to this. Yeah. Who's your girl?
Alicia Valdez.
The detective's plan worked perfectly. He's here to tell the cops everything in hopes that he can maybe get his girlfriend out of trouble. But you can still clearly see how uncomfortable with this he is. As soon as he's asked why he's here, he goes from sitting perfectly still to dancing around in his chair, searching his pockets, and leaning back away from the detectives. It doesn't matter if he thinks this is the right thing to do, he still knows he's being checkmated, and he's about to sentence himself to a lifetime in jail.
You want to get her out of trouble?
Yeah.
All right.
She had nothing to do with it. She's not a criminal. She ain't even been to jail before till now.
Okay. Was she there?
Yeah, she didn't know anything was going to happen though. She didn't have any hand in it at all.
Okay.
I was driving and, you know, you can figure out the rest. I'm sure you already have.
Like I said, I'm coming into this new. I learned about this literally this morning. Mm-hmm. They asked me to come in and kind of assist. So that's what I'm doing. Do me a favor, walk me through. Because if you want to get her out of the situation she's in, I understand, I respect that. But I need to know what happened, so walk me through it.
We were driving around, honestly, for nights, having fun.
Drive around having fun?
Yeah. We like to drive. It's fun. We listen to music. Then we had to pull into this parking lot. And then from there, I don't really feel like I need to speak on it.
Why not?
Because you guys already have pretty much everything figured out. You guys know she did not pull the trigger.
Okay.
That's what matters. I'm just here to get her out of trouble. I'm not here to get anyone else in trouble, except for myself, obviously.
Right.
All I can tell you is no one knew that the shooting was gonna happen. It was not planned.
So it wasn't planned?
Hell no, it wasn't planned. Who plans on driving to a parking lot shooting some random white guy?
Were you planning on robbing him?
Like I said, I wasn't planning on doing it.
Was Caleb planning on robbing him?
Like I said, I'm not gonna speak on that.
This is one of the detectives' leading theories about what happened. They don't necessarily believe that they planned on murdering Andrew. They think that this was more likely a robbery gone wrong. They intended to just steal Andrew's money, but ended up freaking out, shooting him, and running him over to ensure he couldn't turn them into the cops.
What makes you guys go at this kid?
Who?
The victim, the kid that died.
No, he's not a kid, he's 27. But
right. He is to me.
True. Well, like I said, I don't know. I wasn't planning on anything happening to him. I didn't know what was gonna happen to this guy. Okay. So when something went off, I drove off.
Okay. What happened? We need to know what happened.
Well, everyone knows he got shot.
Yeah, I know that. But I'm trying to figure out who shot him, and I need somebody to tell me that.
Well, I'm not going to tell you anything because I'm sure you guys already know. And
okay.
If you guys can't figure that out, then there's some issues. Because
well, let me ask you this. What I'm trying to...
She didn't shoot. You know, she didn't pull trigger. I told you I was driving.
Right.
I mean, can put the rest together. It's not up to me.
But I guess I'm trying to understand is why. I'm trying to understand a motive.
I don't know. I told you. None of us knew that happened. I'm sitting in the damn car.
Mm-hmm.
So I obviously don't know anything's going to happen.
You drive him there. You put him in that lot.
Unfortunately, that's how it looks. That is how it happened.
Yeah.
It's just nothing. I'm telling you, nothing was planned.
Let me ask you this. Were you just thinking of, was Caleb, or do you even know, was Caleb trying just to rip off, get some money? And it's bad?
We're not perfect. I've done this before.
At this point, it's obvious that Devon's lawyer will have told him clearly not to discuss anything that doesn't relate directly to Alicia. He's only going to talk about anything that might help get her out of trouble. It's also at this point that the detective realizes that. He knows that he's not going to get anything out of Devon beyond that, so that's when he decides to do something extremely clever. He's going to abuse the fact that Devon only wants to get Alicia out of trouble, and phrase his next question in a way that forces him to give up some vital information.
I'm not going to speak on anything else besides me and Alicia.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you guys talk about it?
What do you mean?
Did you guys talk about it? Did you and Caleb say, hey, this is what we're thinking about? Because I'm trying to figure out, is she the one planning this?
Alicia had nothing to do with any of this.
So help me understand that.
I'll tell you straight up, me and Caleb together have done crimes before.
Okay. I'm worried about this one.
This one right here? This is supposed to go like that.
How was it supposed to go?
Like I said, I don't see the need to get in all that. It's not going to benefit me or her. I don't see, or him.
Well, right now we're still trying to figure out her role. And if we can explain her role, and there's only two people that can explain her role, you and Caleb. Caleb ain't talking to us. Without us understanding the specifics of how this went down, and if her involvement or what her involvement was in that, with some explanation that we can go back to a DA and say, hey, this is what's going on. This person was honest. She didn't know it was going to go down. But I've got to know that, but I've got to understand how it got planned then. You understand? I have to have some type of specifics to try to sell that. If you want to try to help her, help her.
Are funny.
Put simply, if Devon wants to get Alicia out of trouble and prove she didn't plan the murder,
word magic is real.
He'll have to tell them exactly who did, solving the case for them on the spot. He's been checkmated, because no matter what story he tells them from this point out, they've got the evidence to prove or disprove it. Their entire plan was just to get him to talk, and that's exactly what they've done. Now, it's finally time they heard the truth.
That's why I'm irritated about this, because I don't know this fool nothing about him.
Did you see the confrontation go down between Caleb and this guy?
It looked like the white dude was attacking the person, honestly, but I saw the end of it right before the dude got shot.
Do you remember when you say the white dude was attacking the other guy, right? Could you describe it to me?
It looked like they were squared up and the white dude was rushing the other guy.
Let me ask you, if I stood up, would you show me? If I stood up and I'm the white dude, would you show me? Or let me be the shooter, you be the white dude. Would you do that?
Yeah.
So I understand it? Give me the visual.
So if you're the other dude, the white dude,
So I'm the other guy, right?
The white dude sounded bent like this, and he looked like he was squared up. Started running toward him.
Okay, what's this guy doing?
Running backwards, and that's when I heard a gunshot.
All right. Do you remember? Stand up again for me.
Yeah.
So how close are they? Come to me.
They're probably about this, maybe a little further.
Okay.
And then that's when I heard a gunshot go off, and the white dude rushing him.
So the right dude's closing that gap?
Yeah.
So come in. Do they ever get right on top of each other? No. So there's always a distance?
Yeah. It's always about both their arms distance.
So, all right.
About both their arms.
Okay. Did the white dude have anything in his hand?
I couldn't see. I saw the last end of it. I wasn't really looking for details. I was kind of confused on what was going on.
Okay. All right. This guy, not the white dude, the other guy. Hands together, hands apart.
He's kind of like, he was standing like this, trying to tell the dude to back up.
Okay.
And that's when the white dude kept rushing. I'm assuming maybe he tried to reach for the gun. I don't know.
Okay.
But that's when the shot goes
Was the
off.
gun in the right hand then?
I can't remember.
Oh, but he had one hand up and the other hand back.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Getting a suspect to act out an incident is a great way of proving they actually knew what happened. They may be able to match the movements to the CCTV footage or a witness account, and a defense team will have a hard time arguing that anything here could be misinterpreted. From what Devon is saying, it seems as though there was a struggle between Caleb and Andrew, where the shooter approached Andrew, who quickly tried to defend himself. It's becoming increasingly obvious that this was intended to be a robbery, but when Andrew tried to fight back, it turned into a murder in the blink of an eye.
So when these guys are in your windshield, are they across from each other? Like you're looking at the sides of each other?
They're like this. The position kind of like this.
Could you draw for me?
The white dude, I can't draw, but the white dude's standing. They're both standing. The white dude's closer to me. They're kind of like this.
All right, so you're the driver, right? White dude's closer to the front of the car?
Yeah, kind of.
All right, so if you're looking, are you looking at his back? You looking at his sides? Looking at his front?
Kind of like that. Yeah.
Like this? Where's the other guy?
Right where he is.
I'm Caleb. Where's that you at?
Where's the other guy?
They're like that literally, and then but it's a little more this way, and I'm a little more back.
So this way?
Yeah.
What are you seeing of this guy? His front?
I'm not paying attention to him. I'm paying attention to this guy.
Okay. And you think you see him kind of rush?
No, he did rush.
Okay. So he rushes, but not to the point where they're on top of each other.
No, they didn't get to. They
didn't get it.
The other person was backpedaling.
Okay, so this person's moving back, arm up?
They've been backpedaling the whole time. That's when the shot goes off.
Okay.
Tell me where Caleb's arms are at. How's he at?
I'm not even saying it was him.
Again, it sounds as though as soon as Andrew realized he was being robbed, he started to go on the offensive, forcing Caleb backwards. According to Devon, he then tried rushing Caleb, which scared Caleb into shooting him. They're slowly closing in on the truth here, but not quite there yet, which is why they're still trying to play some tricks on Devon to try and get everything out of him. Devon hasn't admitted that the shooter was Caleb, but notice how the detectives are consistently naming him as the shooter throughout the story. They're trying to get Devon to go along with it and agree or accidentally admit it himself, but he's not slipping up. However, the detectives are relentless and don't stop trying for another hour of tireless interrogation. It's then that Devon finally makes a mistake.
Fuck, this video goes on. What else you guys talk about? You and her.
Oh, I can't remember all that. Like you said, it's not shit. I just usually work on memorizing.
No, that'd be care about her. That'd be a emotional conversation.
Not really. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't know the dude, so I mean, it's fucked up that he just died. I don't know him. I don't know who he is, what kind of person he is, or any of that. But it didn't really strike me emotionally because I don't have that many emotions for. I used to do much. So like, it doesn't really. I mean, I don't really have many emotions about it except for I'm pissed that he's in jail for it. I'm pissed that he died, of course, because I don't know the guy. I'm always pissed about that.
Was Caleb pissed?
Was Caleb pissed? Yeah. He just shot somebody.
Imagine you're in this position. You're trying to hide the fact that your friend shot an innocent man, but the detectives have been taking that fact for granted for the past 2 hours. They've been using his name, asking questions about details, and refusing to accept the fact that it might not have been him. Eventually, you would internalize this idea and forget that you even need to lie. That's what just happened here, and it's why Devon barely even realizes that he's just confirmed that Caleb was in fact the shooter. Of course, there were mountains of evidence against him anyway, but now they have it straight from the source, and a conviction will be easy. The detectives now only have one last question. Was this really an accident, or had they planned this out as a murder from minute one?
Do you remember what he said?
Is he panicked?
All of us kind of panicked because, like I said, I didn't see it coming. I don't like unexpected things like this happening because of this situation exactly. I mean, look at me now. In here for accessory to murder and I didn't see it coming. I mean, if I do something, it's going to be planned out and it's going to get done correctly, so I'm not in this situation. That's why I was kind of pissed and I was panicked because I didn't see this about to happen.
So let me ask you this. If this is your deal, and this is your plan, you say you're planning the robbery, you've done, we've already talked about that. I'm not asking when, dates, when, just this is you're doing, it's not going to be random like this. It's going to be planned out.
Well, yeah, and it's not being a random person usually.
So what Caleb or this other person we're calling did pretty amateur hour, right?
Huh?
Pretty amateur.
What, was this happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, it wasn't even planned. So, I mean, you can't even, I don't even think amateur would be the right word, just random. It wasn't supposed to happen. 98% of the time I rob somebody, it's not random people, which is why I'm irritated about this whole situation, because I don't know who the hell this guy was, except for what the news said, but the news always makes any white dude who dies look like a peach, so I don't know. But that's why I'm irritated about this, because I don't know this fool, nothing about him.
Devon's main point ended up being that if he had planned the murder, then they simply wouldn't have caught him, so it had to have been a spur-of-the-moment decision. But the detectives didn't buy it, and in fact, this approach actually made things exponentially worse for Devon. The interrogation ended shortly after, but the detectives decided to do some further research into these other robberies. They ended up connecting him and Caleb to multiple other serious incidents, including the robbery of a cell phone store the very next day, and an incident where they fired shots into a pregnant woman's home. It was clear that they had been planning multiple robberies and were using Caleb's gun as a method of intimidation to make money. As you could imagine, this didn't look good in court for any of them. Devon received the highest sentence. He was found guilty on 18 counts, including first-degree murder, attempted murder, aggravated robbery, and aggravated intimidation of a witness. He was sentenced to life in prison plus 279 years. Caleb also received a similar sentence of life plus 118 years.
Yeah, but
the fourth passenger in the car, Eternity Lopez, was also interrogated, but was found to be completely uninvolved. She was picked up after the murder, so it seems like she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was not charged with the incident. But possibly worst of all for Devon, his efforts in the interrogation room failed to even help Alicia get off any lighter. She was also found guilty in the murder of Andrew Janicek and was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole.
Ouch. That's crazy. Wow. Okay. Now it's time to finish cleaning my house, probably. If I don't get caught up in something else. But I think I have to go clean my house. So thank you for hanging out with me. I greatly appreciate you. Wait, hold on. I swear I'm done. Okay. So, thank you for watching. I highly appreciate you. Thank you. I'll be back later with some Bible stories and maybe some more true crime. Who knows? Anyway, thank you for watching. I love you. Bye.